Hey, this is Jeff with the Orange Peel. Welcome back to Keepin' It Peel. Today we're keeping it peel with the Get Right Band. I got to sit down in the green room with Silas and Jesse of the band. Let's go inside and listen to what they have to say.
It's not all of my protection. I fell for the misdirection, and it's I got an itchy soul. I got an itchy
Get Right Band.
Jeff Santiago.
Silas, Jesse, thank you for coming to the Orange Peel to hang out with me.
Thank you.
And we're keeping it peel with the Get Right Band.
Yes, indeed.
It's so nice to see you guys. So
Likewise.
nice to have you. So nice to see your faces, where it was just your eyes for a long time, except for what I would see online.
Does this make you more comfortable?
It does. Definitely. Well, I got to ask you. You guys released an album, a 14-track full-length album, in the March of 2020 called Itchy Soul. Just in time to not be able to support it on tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was actually great. I mean, we were very excited about it just already. And, you know, the pandemic happened. And we spent a lot of time working on the album before it actually comes out, as pretty much every band does. And so it had just been a long time coming already. And so we figured, go ahead and release it because we've been working on it, and also as the shutdown happened, people need something to do, something exciting to look forward to, and you know, new things to happen still, and not just everything to stagnate. So it kind of just made perfect sense for us. We had just a very quick discussion about it. We were all just on board immediately with just going ahead and releasing it.
Yeah, we're pretty much too excited about it to sit on it. We saw like a lot of bands were delaying their release, which makes sense to some extent business-wise, but we were just too excited to sit on it any longer because, as you know, like Jesse said, by the time it comes out, you've already been sitting on it for a long time. Like, you're already working on new songs, and, you know, so we couldn't sit on it any longer. But also, it did feel like a good opportunity to, like the online numbers on YouTube and Spotify and stuff were way better than any other album of ours, which I like to think has a lot to do with it being our best album, but also I think it has something to do with people just being home more, online more, you know, looking for something cool to connect with. And so, you know, it went pretty well. But now we're playing shows and getting out to people and being able to, like, sling the CDs from the merch table for the first time, which is interesting.
You guys are a very hardworking band, so I just have to say that in general. But I felt like even though you released your album, you kept being creative. You put out a lot of videos. You did some video work, which was all very creative, and
Thanks.
And it was really nice to see you guys keep busy. Did you feel like that was a natural progression into using that time for that?
Yeah, for sure. We I guess we probably didn't do anything band related for like maybe a month when it first happened, and that was hard. Like, that was kind of harder on me than a lot of the other more obvious scary elements of the pandemic. That definitely like really shook my sense of normalcy and sense of, like, I guess for better or for worse, my own identity is very tied up in the band and the friendship and the progress and staying creative through the band outlet. And so pretty much, you know, almost right away we started recording some stuff even from separate houses, and then a couple, maybe a few months into the pandemic, we started, you know, kind of being our own bubble or pod or whatever. And then at that point, we could really start cranking stuff out. So we like you said, we put out several videos for songs from Itchy Soul. I got to do a stop motion animation for one of them, which is something I've always wanted to do, and always was like, when am I going to have, you know, 12 hours a day for a week? And, you know, come April, I was like, oh, I have lots of time on my hands. I'm going to do this little painstaking. I picked the shortest song on the album.
Love is an outlaw. Love
was like a 1.5-minute song, and it still took me like an insane number of hours. So yeah, we just did a ton of stuff, and then we put out, you know, a bunch of videos, like you said, and then we started writing the next album, and that's what we've been working on.
Yeah, it's been kind of cool too. Like, you know, you say we're like a hardworking band or whatever, but it's really just we weren't playing gigs, so we were like, well, let's now instead of rehearsing once a week, we'll rehearse twice a week, and then that just doubled the amount of time we could put into things, and so we were able to, and without like being run down maybe from being on the road or whatever, we just had more energy to like bring to that process, and so it was able to happen pretty organically, and it felt good. We kind of just diverted our energy away from playing shows, you know. So it was kind of a natural progression, I feel, for us.
And also, going back to the release of the album during the pandemic, that was a nice thing, was like all that business time that normally goes into booking shows and planning tours and promoting shows, all that got diverted into just like working on publicizing the album, whether that was through, you know, more businessy type things or more creative type things of making music videos. But like Jesse said, like we could really divert a lot of attention to things that we don't normally have time for with touring. And to some extent, as things come back to normal-ish, you know, we're talking about what elements do we like about that time? In what ways do we not want to go back to just exactly how things were pre-pandemic? And, you know, that's got to also balance out somehow with reality and schedules and bank account and all that stuff. But, you know, there's a lot to be learned from that time.
Absolutely. And I'm also glad to hear that the dark time wasn't too long for you guys. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know it certainly bogged down a number of artists for a really long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like JC,
understandably-
he went to New Jersey to do some work with his family, and Silas would come over, like hang out with us on our porch or whatever, for, you know, the porch hangs, and we would just regularly have conversations like, is it over? Like, what are we doing now? It was all these like existential like conversations about like, wow, it was a good run. Like, we don't know what's happening. But yeah, thankfully that didn't last too long. JC came back, and we started to get back to it.
I did want to talk about a particular track and video from Itchy Soul, and that was Pulled Up Root.
Yeah.
And I just love that song,
Thanks.
and I love that video,
Thanks.
and the concept where on one hand it seems real simple because it's you guys kind of dancing around playing air instruments
Yeah.
with a featured dancer
Yeah.
also in the cutting too, but it was the cuts and the movement and the colorization. It was all really, really interesting to me. So I
Thanks.
really enjoyed it. And that was you
Yeah,
who directed and produced that one?
Yeah,
Silas?
I directed and edited that, and then Andrew Anderson, who we work with all the time, filmed it, and Tate Beck is the dancer. But yeah, I mean, continuing on with what we were talking about, that was just a thing of like, what is a video concept we can do where we don't have to be inside, we don't have to be tight with each other or with the videographer. So this was a thing we could shoot, you know, one person on screen at a time. And then, you know, it just kind of developed from there. I don't remember where the air guitar, air drum thing came from, but that just ended up being really fun. Actually, I do remember the Grammys or some random show was on during COVID, and the Rolling Stones were playing, each from their own house, and the drummer was playing like air drums, but not even well synced to the song.
So Charlie Watts was playing air drums?
It looked ridiculous, and I was like, this would be so cool if he was perfectly hitting it with the song. And then I was thinking, like, that would look so funny if we were like full blown raging, but like perfectly playing, you know, our real parts, and JC's perfectly playing these complex drum fills as you hear them.
When I get broken like a record, I'm outspoken like a leopard with a temper and a timbre like a timber saw. If you got the balls to put me against the wall, don't you be surprised when you see my claws. You can kick me while I'm down. I'm used to it. And then come back around. I'm used to it. I got bruises on my bruises. Ain't new to this. And once again,
had the like the Itchy Soul video, which came out more recently. That was like we were getting ready to shoot that right as like the pandemic hit, and so we kind of put that one on the back burner because we wanted that one to be more as we had like envisioned it,
which was all inside with like multiple different locations, a couple, an actress and us like in in tight quarters, and
so we were like, yeah, we need to come up with an idea that like is like COVID safe, that we can, we'll still do the Itchy Soul video later on, but for now it would just be cool to like get Andrew Anderson involved and do this video concept. So that was kind of just like an adaptation to this event.
I want to ask you guys about your songwriting process. How deeply collaborative is that with you guys, especially the core three of you? And JC's not here, but how does that come about for you guys? Are there different ways that you guys approach that as a band?
It usually starts with me on my own writing kind of the I don't know, what would you call it, like the basic structure of the song, or not even structure so much as like the basic elements of the song, like lyrics and music. And then when it feels like it's maybe in the 70%, 80% finished realm, I pretty much always record like just, acoustic guitar, like me by myself, a little voice memo thing, and send it to them. And then they have some time to work on their own parts and their own ideas to add drums and bass, and then also if they have like different structural ideas or songwriting changes to it. And then we get together, and that's one thing I love is like by the time we all get together, everyone knows the song and has had time to think about it. And then together we hash it out. Sometimes the final product comes out sounding pretty similar to my original idea. Sometimes it takes really dramatic shifts. Sometimes Jesse or JC will have an idea like, oh, maybe I'm doing this, and then I think, okay, I like that, but if you're doing that, I'm going to totally change my guitar part, and it just kind of evolves. And usually we're kind of steering that ship specifically toward the live show or specifically toward the album, depending on where we're at in an album cycle. And then we start playing it live, and it keeps developing usually even then. But
like if we were to listen to like an older album now, a song that we maybe still play from that album, it's going to sound like totally different.
Yeah.
By this point, like I can't even listen to the old stuff sometimes. So I'm like, oh, what? Like
it's also
going to screw up how I play it now.
Yeah. A lot of times when I listen to our old stuff, I'm like, why are we playing it so fast? Slow down. It sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how you evolve as players and musicians and as people. So that whole thing wraps itself in there, and then you put all that mileage on some of those older songs that you play live a lot. So that's great.
Yeah, I really like how like we change things. Like there's a lot of times, like Silas said, he'll send us the songs, and like I'll be playing along to it. It's kind of without drums and bass, so like we can do whatever we want. And I'm always surprised when JC starts playing drums to it. I'm like, oh, that's not the drum beat that I was envisioning at all. And so like I had a cool bass line, but then like that inspires me to play something else on the bass that was like totally different. And then that may even trigger Silas to play something else on the guitar. So yeah, it's similar to the framework that he sent, but I am always kind of shocked when sometimes JC plays like the beat you would expect, but not always. And it's always fun when that happens. So it just kind of turns everything upside down.
Yeah, or like Can't Stand, which is the final track on our album Itchy Soul, that probably changed maybe more than any other song.
Yeah.
JC actually had the idea to completely change the time signature. I wrote it in 6/8, and he was like, can we try this as 4/4? And it was so hard for me to figure out how to sing over it. And eventually we kind of got there, and the vocals changed to the drums. And then I think the bass part changed to the drums, and then the guitar changed to the vocals. And when it was done, I mean, the chord progression and the vocal melody and lyrics are the same, but everything else changed. Like it really changed dramatically for the much cooler. Like it really, that's probably my favorite song on the album. And it's just so different from how
I was so resistant to it the entire way along, but now it's like one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, it's nice to, that process where you're just really working out a song and going, well, maybe, we think it's one thing, but it has a life of its own. And you guys come together to support whatever that life is. And
that's a nice thing, too. Like right now, a lot of times in the past, we've been, we play songs live a bunch before we record them. And right now, the album that we're working on is going the opposite direction, where we're writing everything just really for the album, and then we're figuring out how to play some of them live, or most of them. We haven't even gotten to that stage yet, but it's cool doing it this way in some ways because we don't even have a preconceived. Like by the time we're recording it, we don't even have a preconceived notion of how it's supposed to be arranged for the live show, and we can just really. Because it's hard to let go of those things. Like when you've played a song, a dozen or 100 times, it is hard to separate. Is this new idea something I don't like, or is it just unfamiliar? It's hard to get your brain to differentiate those things.
You start fighting that muscle memory too.
Yeah, totally sure.
Wow. Well, speaking of preparing things for live, you guys have a show here at the Orange Peel on Saturday, June 12th. We're really excited about it.
Us too.
Anything extra special you guys are brewing up for this one?
We do have a lot of extra special things. Well, one particularly special thing, which is our friend Matt Lane, he plays guitar, and he did one of the live stream that we did at the Orange Peel here during COVID, and yeah, he's just a spectacular guitar player. We're doing some material from the new album, so yeah, it'll be very different from a lot of the other shows we've done throughout our history.
Yeah, we're kind of even with the pandemic, the three of us, me, Jesse, and JC, like we've played so many shows. I mean, I don't even know, but we're definitely in the thousands, and we're a well-oiled machine. Like we don't generally prepare sets in advance. Like I can write the set list 10 minutes before the show, and we can blaze through it like it's a thing we've rehearsed out, But for certain bigger shows, and especially if we're having guest musicians with us, we really craft out a set and rehearse it, which is what we're doing for this Orange Peel show. So Matt Lane is bringing a bunch of cool stuff and allowing us. There's a handful of songs from our repertoire, from albums, that we don't play live because they just don't translate that well as a trio. So we're busting those out with Matt. So we have several songs that people, fans of ours, will know from albums, but we never play them live. And then, like Jesse said, we got a couple songs from the new album that's won't be out for a while, but we're gonna start playing those. And so it's gonna be a really fun show. And of course, it's just it's a special place, the Orange Peel. It's iconic. We've had the pleasure of playing here 4 or 5 times, and it always just feels really special. We've been to so many shows here. I mean, I've seen Dr. Dog and Ani DeFranco and Ozo Motley and your band, and 311. We've been to so many shows here together, separately, just a million times. So it's cooler to be on that stage. It feels cooler than a normal show. It's just
because it is cooler.
It's cooler. Yeah. It's the Orange Peel. I mean, it's a big. When I moved here, it was it's just the thing. It's it's a Nashville, or I guess beyond Nashville too. It's a cultural thing, and it's really exciting to be playing here.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring it. It will be different from our normal show. It'll be better.
I'm excited. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind words about the venue. We certainly appreciate it, and it is a wonderful place to play.
Yeah.
And thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk to me about what you guys have been up to. And we're super excited about the show on Saturday, June 12th.
Yeah, man.
The sky